Good morning all and welcome to the Council meeting of the 19th of April. Welcome councillors, staff, no members of the public in the gallery, but I'm sure they'll be listening in at home, and the media as well. Call for apologies, I'm not aware of any because we're all here. Extraordinary business, you've got an extraordinary business. And I just have one item which we'll bring up in the Mayor's report, and it's just on the Three Waters reform, and you've been circulated a fact sheet, so we'll just have a discussion around the change from Three Waters to affordable waters and have that chat in the Mayor's report time a bit later on. Someone like to move that we accept that item of extraordinary business? Councillor McMillan, Councillor Brown, all in favour please say aye. Carried, thank you. Declarations of interest. In today's agenda, none, thank you. We'll move on to the confirmation of the minutes on page 4. And any alterations or additions to those minutes? For page 5, page 6. Not can I have a move in a second that the minutes of the 5th of April Council meeting be taken as read and confirmed. Councillor Lovett, Councillor Brown, all in favour please say aye. Aye. Carried, thank you. Moving on to item number 5, Executive Committee. Really just there for your information on the funds that were distributed, that were collected in the Ashburton District through the Mayoral Fund and distributed to Mayor's Mayoral funds up in the North Island after the horrific flooding events they had up there after Cyclone Gabrielle. So all listed there as to how the funds were distributed, and I'd just like to thank our community for giving those funds to help them up there. And in the last Mayor's report of Council, there was a letter of thanks back from the mayors up there, very, very appreciative of what we gave, and just the fact that we were thinking of them as well, which was really, really good. Moving over now to item number 6, and dog control fees and charges for the period first. Oh, sorry. Yep. Just do things properly. Move the next.
I'll move.
Second, we received those executive committee minutes, and it was Councillor Hooper seconded. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to dog report. Dog control fees and charges, sorry, it's not a report, and we need to do this early because we need to have it in place by the 1st of July. Yeah, we do this every year. Rick, anything further to add to your report you've got here?
Thank you, Mayor Brown, and good morning, councillors. No, nothing further to add to the report, thank you.
Councillors, any questions? Councillor Wilson.
Yes, I understand that there's been quite an improvement in compliance with the dog registration. Will this in future lead to a reduction in the overall cost? As the more people are compliant, the more registration fees, therefore the lower the cost, because it's spread over a larger base?
It's a good question, which I don't feel particularly able to answer. It doesn't result in a lower contractual fee. So this service, as you know, is contracted out, and that's an annual fee. We don't get charged a lot extra for that side of the enforcement side because they're doing the patrols anyway, so I'm not sure that it would actually result in anything cheaper. But certainly it's very encouraging, the high levels of registration that our in-house staff and the contractor have been achieving. I think it's the highest we've ever achieved. I think we're sitting at 98% at the moment.
Of the known dogs, yeah, which is good.
Yes, and also you'll be happy to hear finding a lot that were not previously known to us and which are now registered as part of that process.
Yeah, so it meant over time that must bring it down. More people paying brings the average down, but you would think. And our fees have gone up just basically by rate of inflation, is it?
They have gone up just by the that adjustment that we do every year. The only one that I put up further was just an extra $1 on the microchip fee, which was just to cover the actual cost of the product that we're paying for.
Thank you. Councillor Ellis. Oh, sorry, Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. Through the chair, when are the new tags coming in to place? Is that
This
financial year?
registration period, yes. I think we've already got them, have we? Yep.
And how long will they're going to last a lot longer than the current plastic tags, aren't they? They'll be able to be used for.
Yes, they're supposed to last a lifetime. I'm not sure whether that's actually true or not, but they'll certainly last quite some time. So we're hoping that we'd only be dishing them out for new dogs or replacement ones for lost tags.
That's good. Thank you.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Is on top of the fees we collect, is there a ratepayer contribution to this?
Yes, there is, and I'm desperately trying to remember off the top of my head and hoping Tony Durham might have a better memory than me in terms of what our revenue and financing policy says. I have a feeling it might be 20% rates.
20, is it?
Yes, I think it's a scale, Jane. I can look it up for you right now, but it's around that 20% contribution.
Which is from the ratepayers?
From
From
rates.
ratepayers,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
Yep.
So, more dogs is better because hopefully that contribution from the general ratepayer will come down in this service. Yeah.
Yes, that's always been a bone of contention, but as to why the dog owners are paying for the naughty dog owners, but that's just the way it is.
Perhaps those tags, if you've got them there at the next activity briefing, you might just bring a couple along and just show us what they look like. Yeah. Cool.
I just had a question.
Oh, yeah, Councillor Lovett.
Where do we sit nationwide with their charging with their dogs? Is there a standard out there, or is every council different, or how do we benchmark?
They're all very different, and Rick might be able to comment further, but I think some councils like Selwyn seem to have a very simple system where, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to just have pretty much the one fee, whereas we have different fees for urban and rural and neutered and non-neutered. Our fee structure's set up to try and reflect the geography of our district in terms of there being a lot of rural dogs and not charging as much for those. But the other thing that drives the way we set our fees is trying to encourage good behaviour so that you'll pay less if you've got a neutered dog, for example, and responsible dog ownership. So there's an incentive there.
Tony, you've got the answer to what the general rate contributes to the dog activity?
Yes, I have. Through the revenue and financing policy, we have a contribution of between 5 to 15% coming in from the general rate for this activity.
I was generous at 20, Mr Mayor.
Yeah. We've got an LTP coming up. Could adjust, up or down. Councillor Cameron.
So can we just have an absolute figure on that? Like, what is that approximately in absolute terms? Like the dollar? Yeah. Like, this might be more meaningful to people that
Will
may be
vary
listening.
every year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, we'll see what the year we're in currently. Thanks. Councillor Hooper.
Thank you. I see the urban D6 dog is $66 for the year. Responsible dog owners, urban only. What is now $6 cheaper again? It's $60. So what? How do you judge that, or what? Because it's obviously different to just D6ing. So what is a responsible dog owner?
Do you know the criteria? I think with the responsible dog owner, you've got to be able to have dog-free access to the front door, and also you got a good track record where you haven't had your dog impounded more than once. Are there any other criteria?
Thank you. Through the chair, as Jane was saying, this is down to the section being inspected, fenced properly, lock gates, segregated dogs, and so on. Right. So it's a full criteria.
Okay, thank you.
And if you want to be a responsible dog owner, how do you go about getting that status?
Oh, you can just ring up and ask.
Ring the council and
yes,
say you'd like
Frank
an
goes and
inspection.
does an inspection. Yep.
Yep. And it's a free inspection. Yep. Thank you. Tony?
Thank you. So, should have remembered this. Through the annual plan and the LTP, we show the animal control as a part of the regulatory functions activity. So we'll have to find that information out and bring it along to the next activity briefing. I can't drill into it at this point from this way.
Thank you. Yeah, that'll be great. There's a recommendation there, I'll read it, that council adopts dog registration and control fees and charges for the 23-24 as set out in Appendix 1, and Item 2, that the dog registration and control fees and charges for 23-24 are publicly notified. Someone like to move? Councillor Ellis. Seconder. Councillor Lovett. Any debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Item number 7, councillor reports. Thanks, Rick. Jane. 7.1, the Deputy Mayor Macmillan's report. Any questions of Deputy Mayor? Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question. Oh, presentation of plaque to Hoops. Congratulations, Phil, on getting a plaque. Can we have some elaboration on what that is and who authorised that, and what was it from the council or was it from another person, please?
Councillor Mac. Yeah, I'll give you some update on it.
Thank you.
It was organised through the Mayor's office for recognition for the Phil Hooper, the radio DJ, who had done 16 years service to the district, and the Mayor's office thought it would be very fitting for a recognition of that number of years service to our community.
Thank you.
And I wasn't here, so the Deputy Mayor gave it on the day.
And thoroughly well deserved, but can I ask, and is that a common event? Like, can we approach the Mayor if we have other worthy people in Ashburton that are allowed to be honoured with a particular award? Or how is that? Because I over the years I've mentioned this, and we have to wait for the end of the third quarter for the community awards to be given out. So how do we do
Generally, you do wait until the community awards. Yeah,
we have a special requirement that there's a special
this was probably a special case. It was a fitting to be done at that particular time.
And that wasn't advised to the rest of the council. Is that also the normal?
No, but advising now.
And the deputy
It was
mayor's
a timeliness.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Just the plaque itself said thanks. It wasn't there wasn't an award as per the other award categories that the council has in a more formal sense, and it was on the day of his last day in that normal time slot when a council rep goes in and talks to him, and so it all fitted with the occasion in a relatively informal manner, as opposed to considering that in the context of other contributions and what award was. It was less formal than that.
Thank you. I was just seeking clarification as to how it works. Thank you.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. I just wanted to update. So yesterday I was one of the councillors who went over to the library for the councillor chat. So I did the evening shift with Councillor Wilson, and we had 2 people come along, which was great. But we were just wondering, how does that do we need to report those numbers back to council? Is it something that you want to keep a record of? And any of the inquiries that we get, so we had one which we've passed on to Neil McCann this morning, but anything else, does it just go through to the group manager? I'm just wondering how it comes back. I know it's a trial at the moment for a few months to see how it works, but do you want any record of numbers, etc.?
It probably should be reported back because it's a council function of councillors, and the best way to report it back may be through this councillor reports in this section of council. So it's we meet every 2 weeks, so the report won't be big, but each councillor who's attending those may just give a brief, not necessarily who it was, but what it was about. Yeah. Hamish, do you have something further?
Just reflecting on the start of the program, to me it's another way of councillors interacting with the community, and you might or might not reflect on every conversation you have with a member of the district and what that might mean for passing on a message or passing on a concern or finding out some information or just talking to them. And it's another forum, if you like, as opposed to being a formal. From the staff point of view, we don't need any particular data from it. It's just another opportunity for councillors to interact with the community. But to the Mayor's point, if you consider it a trial and you want to reflect on the numbers to make a decision in the future, then it probably is worth recording.
Yeah, so after you've done your session, perhaps just an email with it to the Mayor, and we can collate it into a councillor's report for you. Yeah, that's good. Anything further of Councillor Lovett?
I just think Liz, Councillor McMillan went to the Vehicle Trust meeting. Just the numbers on that, are we getting response from the public, or is it just the same core little group that are using it? Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Yes, we had we've had some big numbers coming through, so and we're getting quite a few new people using the service. So big numbers as in sort of 15 to 18 a month, which is sort of nearly every second day. There's a vehicle going out. We've decided to do some promotion, and all the rural delivery mailboxes should have had a connector flyer go into them. So we've done that just recently, and there's some new social media promotion to be done as well. So we are getting new people. It's not the same people that were. I mean, they're still booking every 2 weeks, but we are getting a lot of new people. So it's and we've got 7 new volunteer drivers. So it's definitely working.
It's not just about getting people to town and back. It's a social aspect to it as well.
Social and yes, if they're feeling isolated. In some instances, we've had people who are unable to drive for a period of time, or their car's not working and they need to get to work. So it's just all sorts of people, not just the elderly.
Anything further? Recommendation there. Someone like to move?
I'll
we
move it.
received the report. Second up. Councillor Wilson. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Thank you. We have Richard Lemon and Tim Lovett here with us now from the AMP Association, and they're going to give us an update on what's happening out at the AMP grounds. They're doing some work out there and have been working on it for quite some time. So I think they've got some exciting plans, and they're going to share them with us today. So Tim, Richard, if you'd like to come up to the table up there, and perhaps Janice, you could put the lights on for them, for their microphones. Just come up a bit close. There we go. Yeah. Great. No, we'll have to use the microphone. Those at home won't hear Richard, but no, you're good.
Cheers. Do I need to sit down or can I stand up?
Sit's probably better than the microphone will capture your voice, Richard.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming along.
Mr Mayor, councillors, CEO and the staff and visitors, it's a great privilege to be able to come here today. We know how Ashburton is needing to grow. We've done some work at the showgrounds over the years. We've had some issues with sporting codes and event codes clashing. So over the last 6 months, Tim and I have been working behind the scenes on really producing a new set of guidelines or a new set of thoughts as to where we believe that the grounds should be able to go. What we would like to really see is perhaps the introduction of more events at the park, at our grounds. We're looking to accommodate these by making some adjustments at the grounds. And what we're really asking for you to is have a look at our concept, criticise our concept. We have already been to our stakeholders, the rugby union, all the horse groups, the dog agility people, our leaseholders who rent sheds and that type of thing. So most of them know what is going on. We've had a little bit of criticism in the background. I'm not saying that it's all negative. 99% of it would have to be positive. It's, can I use the word generational change, that is perhaps the sticking point. Younger generational people are quite open to change and development, but some of us grey-headed farts perhaps are a little bit different. So I'd just like to run through a little bit of the history and what our thoughts are, and Tim will flick through, and please feel free to flick through those concept plans that you've got there. They're for yours to keep and take away and peruse. So as we're talking, as you'll know, I'm chairman of the board, Richard Lemon, chairman of the board and a past president, and we've got Tim Lovett, who's also a board director, and he's past president and our grounds manager at the moment. So we've sort of taken this on as a project behind the scenes to really kick it along. The grounds are invested in the AMP Association so long as the AMP Association is in existence. They are actually originally Lands and Survey. If we go out of existence, they revert to the government through the council, but the iwi have first option on the value of it. So principally, the grounds out there are freehold to the association while the association is in existence. So that's the real crux of this matter. So what we tend to talk about is our grounds, it's not leasehold grounds. In conjunction with that, at the moment, we run a licence with the rugby union for 7 months of the year. So they have a licence to operate their business, we'll call it a business because that's what it is, out of those grounds using the grandstand mainly. Tim, you flick over to that first one. If you go to page 2, you can see the orange areas, I think it is.
Yep, we see it.
Yeah, the orange areas. That is the area that the rugby union lease at the moment. Not lease, have a licence to operate from. They used to have a lease up until 5 years ago, and they deemed to change it to a licence. They used, in the past, they used to lease the whole of the grounds. This was the only facility in New Zealand that actually had 11 rugby playing fields on one site. So for years it was an icon within, and we were looked at as having something special. As rugby clubs developed, what happened was people and clubs wanted to have more home games so that they could use their facilities. So consequently, JAB rugby and that type of thing was taken away from the showgrounds, and the only reason that this is operating now is for rep games and that type of thing, profile games. And one of the things that I can see happening this year is I've just come past the college and I see there's a great big shingle track with their development running right across the rugby ground. So I hopefully can see some of the college games partaking out at the showgrounds this year also. So the issues that we have, we believe, a bit of underutilisation. Like we have a grandstand out there, facility, that has just been revalued. The valuation on that is 5.2 million. We pay 25,000 a year from an organisation that has a turnover of 250,000. We pay $25,000 to insure that building. So the business side of it just is not starting to stack up. So that's why we are trying to encourage more participation, more use, a little bit more revenue for the association to be able to maintain and support these facilities. The second major issue that we have is the combination of people and horses on the grounds, and especially on that number one playing field. There's no written facts about whether health issues are a problem, but it is a perceived area of something, and looking ahead, we need to be able to make sure that we can guarantee anyone that plays there that is not going to be affected by any health issues. One of the other areas that we have a real concern is under health and safety now. Last year at our show, because of the setups, we had to run horse rings on the western side of the track behind electric fence tapes. Now, in a health and safety world, that is a real no-no. I'm very involved with the Canterbury AMP, and anything like that that is putting people and public at risk is a real no-no. So these are sort of three of the main areas of why Tim and I've worked on this and come to the new thing. So the new look concept, as I said, is to increase and better utilise the facilities. What we see as the stakeholder involvement is the rugby union with rep games, college rugby games, touch rugby, JAB Ripper rugby, and of course we've got to be gender now with the introduction of women's rugby. Tania Dearns out there is very much into the ladies rugby, even with, as far as the New Zealand Rugby Union goes. She's on the consultative group for that, and she would really like to push that in mid-Canterbury. The issue that we have out there with the rugby union, of course, is gender neutral changing facilities. And they've really come to us and said, well, if we do change and we can develop this, can we redevelop under the grandstand to put in gender neutral change facilities where a changing room has its own shower block and toilets. So each individual change room, then we can use them either male, female, it doesn't matter who uses it. So it becomes a gender neutral area. So from the rugby, our other involvements are the horses, where we've got our annual show. We have the Ashburton area show jumpers with two major events in a year. We have the South Island show jumping champs, although they are on an irregular basis. We have dressage groups coming and using the grounds. We have pony club shows, local, and we have South Island Pony Club events. All right, now the South Island Pony Club event, they've just booked in for January 24 and January 25. So they are two major events that are being attracted to Ashburton. We also have the dog obedience and the dog agility groups working there. They are there 4 nights a week minimum, and I think they love the facility. It's easy to get at. It's certainly a attractive space for them. They've got lighting there that we've put in over the years, and they hold their annual show in October, Tim, isn't it? Yeah. So then we've got the Caravan Motorhome Show. That's a biggie for us. And the Lions, it's great for them to be able to come to us, negotiate and say, yep, here's the facility. They know what they want. They come in and set up, and we're not like some areas that charge the setup days as rental. The days that we do, we only charge them for the event day, not a setup day. We've also got the Mid-Canterbury Vintage Machinery Shed on site now. They have their club event days, and they use that meeting room quite a bit now for Federated Farmers meetings and arable section meetings and whatnot. South Island Seeds rent the HIP Pavilion on an annual basis, except for over show week, over show month. If they've emptied that shed prior to, one of the things that they do is they have allowed Bookarama to set up in there if the shed's been empty. They've also this last year used it for Toot of Tucker, the collation. They said it was great. They could open the doors, drive through, unload, they're sheltered, sort and cart away. So we love to see those buildings being used like that. That's purposeful, multi-use. That's what we're about. The YFC this last weekend have just held the regional finals for the Young Farmers competition. So that was on the grounds also. So to this end, all over that, we still have an annual show. So I think it was, might have been 10 years ago, we did a survey, and the grounds out there were being used 40 odd weekends in a year out of 52. So that's not a bad record for a facility of that sort. So ladies and gentlemen, why are we here? As I said earlier, we're looking at repurposing. You've got the plans in front of you, and if we run through those, Tim might be able to point out certain areas. One of the things that we're looking at doing is shortening the oval. At the moment, the oval stretches beyond the rugby playing field, so we would shorten the oval into a rugby playing zone. At the ends, we would leave the side walls. At the ends, we can then use that as multi-purpose. It can be used as practice arenas, it can be used as event space, it can be used as parking, it could be used to sponsor corporate sites. It's warm-up areas, it's all sorts. So with that use, the shortening, it becomes multi-purpose. We can design it for what we need. Still leaving those side fences so that if we needed to put a horse ring in that area, especially on the eastern end, it only means another fence, temporary fence across. So we can contain and do that. This next part is to develop the 3 new horse rings to the west of the driveway towards D&E's. So if you're looking, if you come in from the Brucefield Ave entrance and on your left-hand side you've got the old boxes, and that next open area, looking at running 3 horse rings from there to the top fence. Those will have a perimeter fence that is permanent, but the internal fences will be adjustable so that we can shorten them up for a 1-ring horse event, or we can divide it into 3 or 4 rings or whatever is required. Between there and the Netherby school site becomes a practice area for horses or a practice area for whatever. During we're looking at the number of rings up there for the likes of the show jumpers, they are the ones that require the large areas for their competitions. During the show, we would probably only require a third of that area above the, on the west side of the shingle track. But the rest of it can then be turned into either parking, float parking, dog trials in that area. So the idea, as I'm trying to allude to, is to make the areas multi-purpose, be able to divide them, shorten them, fence them, you know, with a bit more ease. Also, we would enhance the dog training area. They've sort of been used along the west side of that track, just to the towards the grain sheds, and we would like to enhance that. They've been looking at a club rooms, and when we start talking about the building development, that is where it would come in. If you have a look on one of the maps there, I think the first one, it'll show you a proposed building along the side of the west track. The idea of that building is to have it open either side, so that the dog agility, if they've got a show on, they can use it that way, or if the horse people have got a show on, they can use it the other way. That would have a mini kitchen and toilet facilities. We're also looking at putting a toilet block up closer to the D&E side of the grounds, because we're lacking toilets in that area up there. We have given easement to the Ashmark Holdings people who are building the big shed on the top northwest corner of our grounds to run their sewer line across our top boundary to join in the sewer line that runs down through the avenue of trees to Brucefield Ave. So, but we have reserved a right to hook into that, looking ahead. So other than building development, we would like to try and enhance the environment by plantings, and you'll see the trees that have been done with that. So stage one, we'll break it into what we think now the stages to do. We would like to really look at the ground development first on the west side of the ring, the fencing and the planting. We believe if we can get that right and we can clear the ring of the show jumping, I don't have an issue with in-hand classes or that type of thing on the oval, because they won't do the damage. It's the show jumping ones that dig the ground up and cause us the issues. I think personally we have been offered a competition for this year's show that will certainly go onto the oval. The New Zealand Dog Trial Association is asking if we can host the Australia-New Zealand competition again. We did it 3 years ago.
No, it was probably state unit.
Right, 5 years ago. So that's something that's a coup for us. We came out at our meeting the other night that an inquiry has come to that. So we can put dog trials on there, because if it would be an insult to the Dog Trial Association if any of those animals defecated on the playing field, because that's a real no-no in a dog trial situation. The dogs have got to be emptied off the run site. So I've got no issue in putting passive things on there, but during the show in the future, if horses are not on there, to me that becomes a kids zone. You know, we can put children out there, put competitions out there for those people. We could run the Highland dancing there instead of over the other side of the thing. It's a matter of adjusting what we've got to suit the site, and I believe that can be done quite easily. Stage 2, I believe it will be putting pavilions and toilet facilities up in the new area. Stage 3, and if you have a look at the last page on your thing there, you'll see red dots and orange dots. At the moment, we have all the red dots are all our power poles with lighting on them. They're getting to a stage where the poles are not in good order and need replacing, but what we would intend to do is to put that power underground and just put lighting poles in for the rugby. So the big orange dots on there are the lighting poles for the grounds. And then working in conjunction with the MCRFU to repurpose the grandstand and look at that type of thing. The changing facilities, although they're okay, they're not the best. And if we're to attract better games and that type of thing, I believe that's where we need to be able to challenge and put our thoughts. So, who knows? At the moment, this has been presented to our committee and board who are in favour of it. All of our horse groups, our user groups have been consulted, and as I said, 99% of those are in favour of it. The rugby union is right behind it. We've had a meeting with them, and that's when they brought up about the changing of the grandstand, repurposing that as well. Tim has met with the dog agility and dog obedience people. They love it. So I would just hope that you as council will get in behind us and love it like we are. So what are we looking for? First, we would like the support of the concept from you people. Secondly, we would like to renegotiate with you, if possible, the lease of the block across the road next to the cemetery for parking, just to enhance us. We know that it is earmarked for cemetery in the future. I don't think it'll worry me. That paddock won't even be half full by the time I'm part of it. Well, I shouldn't speak negatively, but, you know, age doesn't go that way, it goes that way, doesn't it? And hopefully a little bit of financial assistance. And lastly, support, I think, out in the community. And when we are looking for funds out in the community, I'd like to be able to use the council's support in saying they're right behind it, you know, let's get into this as a community. So in the end, what the association would like to see is the grounds be used as part of the event spaces for the Ashburton District. And I think we need to be able to enhance that as a combined group. And the other things that we look at, you know, we've got a grandstand facility there. Why couldn't we hold some outdoor concerts? Why can't we have some multicultural concerts? Let's make a facility and a stadium that ticks for this town. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
Thanks very
I do have some concept photographs there, but you can have a look at those
thanks.
afterwards.
Well done, thanks. Very well presented, Tim, for coming along and presenting that and sharing it with us. The AMP grounds out there definitely is a community asset. We all know that, and it needs to be retained and enhanced, and you're doing that with this plan you've got, which is good. The plan, my view, is really good. It's really positive. You've got 99% people agreeing. It's difficult to do today. If you've got that, you've achieved a lot to start with, which is excellent. And around costings, you might have an idea will come up. And if you're wanting the 4 things you're wanting, we can do that. The dollars one, we would need to know a number because we're coming up into a long-term plan process tail end of this year. So there'll be a time when, if there was monies required, we'd need to know that number, which we go in, and then we would consult with our community, which is the same community who'd be using this facility on that. So some steps there. But I think I've got some lights on for questions. Tim?
Richard's done an excellent job of presenting it.
Yes.
And you've got to remember that we are volunteers, and as ground manager, you probably wouldn't believe how many hours I spend repairing horse damage to get to rugby fields. And it's not just the time involved. $18,000 was spent on the field last year just to reinstate it. We're not making any money. We're not going forward. And that's the problem with the AMP. And we need to have this discussion now, because in 20, 30 years' time, we haven't generated enough cash to retain the fields.
You can't keep on doing the same old thing. No. You need to go with the times, which this plan is excellent in that way forward. Caroline?
Congratulations. That's a lot of work behind that, and you've done jolly well to get everybody agreeing with it, because I know there's been some concerns out there. Certainly, I'd echo the Mayor's sentiment in that I definitely would be supportive of your suggestions, and certainly of other uses for the grounds as well, with regards to the stadium and how to have community events out there and get it to be back as part of the centre of our planning and our event space. So I think you've done a blooming great job. My question is with regards to the dog area and other things that you're talking about. Would the dog people pay for their pavilion or their club rooms if they were going to do that, or would that come?
It's a little awkward to ask. Like, they can probably generate some money.
Yeah.
They're not profitable, these
No.
organisations, and we want it to be the horses to use it and the dog obedience to use it. So I guess we'll have to charge them. It'll be a user pay. We need to probably front up with the.
You put the capital in and they'd sort of lease it.
Yeah, and it's long-term payback.
So I think you would probably get a lot of support from the council, but as the Mayor said, we need to know the dollars. Yeah. Thank you, and thanks for coming in.
Just for efficiency of time, Councillor, if you just have one question each, one speaking session each. Phil?
Thank you. Okay, I've got 4 questions, quick ones.
That's good. It's okay, just do one slow.
One session. 4 blocks.
4 blocks.
Hi gents, thanks for coming in and all the work you've done, fantastic. Health concerns for the rugby grounds, is that not only cutting up the ground but also horses leaving behind and health issues there? Yep, I thought as much.
That's the potential, the perceived health issues. It's, as I said before, it's never been proved, but anywhere that there's a mixture of animals and people, there's always that issue.
That's coming from higher up in the rugby union too, not just Ashburton.
Sure. Yep. So I told you they're going to be quick. Number 2, does the equestrian area need? I see you haven't got a grandstand there. Do they not really use the current grandstand much, and they therefore not need one over in their area?
No.
We've got a heap of portable bleachers. The rugby union have got 12, plus we have 7 or 8 ourselves. So
that's enough.
And most of them are sitting on a horse.
Okay. I see you've got some stabling areas, the Breastfield Ave, and do the horses mainly sort of hang out at their floats before and after they do their bit in the ring? Yeah, so they don't need stabling so much?
No. Overnight they do. It's a requirement that no horse should be left tied to a vehicle overnight.
Okay, and final one is the lighting poles that you've proposed for the rugby games, are they going to be sufficient for night games, or is it more for just training?
No.
So,
well, night games on the main oval, training facility on the others. All right.
Awesome, thank you.
So it's just going back to the horses, like there's up to 400 horses at their South Island jumping events with people as well. So.
Yeah, wow.
Councillor Lane.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. I like the plan. Looks really good. My first question, I've got one question. I presume that everyone who's there with the rugby union, the vintage machinery, the crane store, they pay for. So what's your annual income?
The annual income of the association, including all of that, is about $250,000.
250.
Right.
Okay.
The last 2 years for our association, We haven't been able to balance the books because of COVID. We've been approximately 40,000 each of the last 2 years behind, but we do have investments of a couple of $100,000 that, you know, that's our backing money, if you know what I mean. So we don't really want to use all of that in this concept, otherwise, you know, we're leaving ourselves exposed.
Sorry, that was the only question I can ask.
But the reality is, we're not a great business because we rely solely on 2 days of the year, and that weather has to be fine, and it's who comes through the gate means whether we make it or not for the year.
Liz?
Thank you. I think this is a great plan, really well thought out. Just wondering, what's the timeline? So what were you thinking? The Mayor mentions our LTP, which is not this coming financial year, but from the next financial year. Is that how far you're thinking, or are you hoping to get this sort of underway as soon as you can?
Yeah. Well, we would, but like we have to get the funding first. Like we need to keep our funds available to run our show, and so we need to look outside to get that going. And at the end of the day, we won't move the horses until they have a field developed, and probably because of the type of field it will need, I'd say 7 or 8 months to develop, like a sand-based type grass field to be able to withstand jumping and all that sort of thing. So. Because one group we probably didn't mention is also dressage happens at the showgrounds too, which they actually cause probably more damage than jumping because they stick in the same track the whole weekend. Whereas the jumps, they do tend to move them occasionally when we tell them.
And do you have an estimated cost, or are you still working on that?
We do. And like we went for the top of the line, yeah, everything, bells and whistles, and we're probably looking at 600k net.
That's just on ground development.
Yep.
Right. But that also includes irrigation component, so we would be upping our irrigation to facilitate better surfaces and better growing surfaces.
So one of the problems we have when we have an event, we have to stop irrigating for the horses, say on a Wednesday or Thursday, so they can set up. And if the northwest's blowing, the ground's too hard for them. So we need to have some sort of system that could be just turned on, and so we can give it 10 mils prior to the event and just keep the grass growing and things like that. But
even on some of those events, they irrigate overnight.
But yeah, like the financial thing, we certainly will go through in depth. But this town, I know we'll get sponsorship from some companies and things like that. So as scary as it is, when you put it over the next 20 or 30 years, it's probably a good call. I hope.
That figure seems an achievable target, I think. Reasonable, achievable, yeah. Tony?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Morning, gentlemen. Richard, I liked your comment, a little bit of financial support, which is quite interesting how far that goes, but where do you think our support would be needed? Is it just a general contribution to the overall event, or do you have any ideas?
We have already put out a list of funders of where we wish to target some things, but I think it would be getting the council in behind to support. If you've got some funds out of your long-term plan or your sports grounds funds that would help us along, certainly I think that would be great. That's, yeah.
Two of the biggest expenses was soil and sand, so there may be somewhere that we can get some from some other projects to help us along the way if we know this isn't in the system.
Half of the quote was really soil and sand extra to be brought in. Yeah. We don't have a sandy beach, that's the problem.
The sand about, Hamish.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Firstly, a comment and congratulations on plans to separate out horses from human activity. That seems to me to be a fantastic initiative, so congratulations. I just had one question, and there have been other plans in the public realm for new horse facilities in the Mid-Canterbury district. How confident is the association that if these plans were developed into reality and people had contributed, that that you have the support of the horse community for the 20 or 30 years that you're sort of looking for payback? Is there any risk, if you like, to at least one of your tenants?
There's always a risk, but what we are hoping to do is be able to produce a set of grounds that they don't want to move from. All right. From what I can gather from the other areas, they're struggling to fund. Otherwise, it would have been up and going by now. And even the show jumping fraternity doesn't have a lot of cash behind them either. They've got enough to exist and carry on. It's like any sporting code. That's about as, we know of the Lakewood development. I've met with that particular lady. She came to me in the early stages and asked if we would sell the AMP showgrounds for redevelopment. And I said, and she said, transfer the funds out there to give them a seating base. I said, I'm sorry, but if we go out of existence, that seating base disappears. It's not ours to deal with. So that sort of ended that conversation. Yeah.
Russell?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Really excited by it. I think one of the areas where council hopefully can assist is our economic development area, and our thing has a person who's employed to run events for the community, and I think they could work with you guys once that space is more readily available, because the horses are moving, to run some better and bigger community events.
Yep.
And I think, I think the whole of Ashburton then would appreciate that as well. So I think that's a big area where we can assist, and I think we need to sit down at some stage and talk about that.
Yeah, behind the scenes, the sort of things we envisage is once we've got the stadium there and the field area, the Football Association can come and hold their finals or their provincial games. The NRL people, our rugby league people, the rugby people, we've got all of those ones that are looking for somewhere just to hold that special game, I think we would attract the Crusaders a little bit more, We're only an hour down the road. We've just got to put our pullers out, and say, come and see us.
We've had them once before.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I'm saying.
Make it more attractive.
Make it more attractive for them to come.
I think it also fits with council's plans. We were planning on, in the medium term, to develop down the network centre, fields, etc. And as we know, money's tight at the moment, but a little bit of investment out there for a medium term would certainly help us out as well as a community.
Yep.
So Phil, last one.
Yeah, Richard said I could have his question, so that's how I was thinking. 600,000 for ground development. What's the total cost?
That was including the buildings and
that's including the lighting.
No.
Not the lighting.
No, we're only looking at stage one at this stage.
Okay.
Right?
Do you have an idea on
No.
completed?
No, not at all.
Okay.
At this stage.
But if the rugby union stay, they also have funds that will probably help to develop lighting and things like that too, and they intend to probably build another administrative type building and things like that. So.
Well, thanks very much for coming in and presenting. I think council will, of what I'm hearing, has endorsed your plans. They look really good, exciting, great development prospects there. So over the next wee while, we'll definitely keep in touch and see where we can assist and fit in as part of the community to enhance those grounds out there for the benefit of our whole district. and further afield as well. So thanks very much for presenting that. That was excellent. Thank you.
That's good. Cheers.
Councillors, next item is number 8, which is the Mayor's report, and I'll move through it reasonably quickly. The first one, the conference and the AGM is coming up on the 26th, 28th of July, and the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor and the CE will be attending, and we can have 2 other councillors as well. So it's in Christchurch. So if you would like to think and who would like to go to that conference, there will be some details. We've got details already on and the speakers that we have. We've got an itinerary agenda already, so we can circulate that. And yeah, I think it's also an intention that you'll get 3 conferences in the time you're here that you'll get to attend one of them. So yeah, so if anyone would like to go, then let me know in the next little while, and Carol will definitely send a reminder as well. So we'll send the agenda out for that. There's remit process there as well to go to the AGM. If you're thinking of a remit, also forward that to me, Russell.
Because we talked the other day about polystyrene, so maybe we...
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just flipping my light on for the same purpose, that there was a conversation around some kind of national process to deal with polystyrene. So it might be appropriate to have some kind of resolution from this meeting, if a councillor had in mind for us to develop up. There is a bit of a form to fill out and a process to go through, but it would be nice to know that council fully wanted that to happen from a meeting such as this.
Do you want to move up?
Do we need to move that we're going to submit a remit on...
A resolution will be far better than just a general...
Okay. How are we going to word this? On...
that we prepare a resolution around polystyrene
reduction
use.
or I mean, I think what we talked about on that particular day was charging the producers almost so that the other to incentivise them to get rid of polystyrene. But
yeah, I think a resolution that's reasonably general to encourage LGNZ to advocate on behalf of a national process for dealing with polystyrene, and that leaves it open to individual to specific solutions, which might be a charging regime for producers, it might be a recycling standard, it might be other disposal methods. So leaving it reasonably open to try and develop a national approach to the issue of polystyrene.
my resolution is
Exactly that. And someone like the second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Caroline. And then Tony will probably, I think it's Tony, would develop something up. Well, could we have that back for the next, in 2 weeks' time, next council meeting? Is that?
Of course.
Okay. Because the timeline is quite tight. It's the end of May it needs to be.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, is the deadline to get it in, so that would be great. Thanks. Any debate on that? Nope. Move in a second. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Thank you. Remit process. Mayor's Task Force for Jobs. Very successful. Good start to that edition. It says here we've got 1 in work. I think that's 9 now. I think it's 9 it's jumped up to. So it's very, it's a very good project and good, getting good results. And I think a lot of it stems back to the coordinator. We've got the right coordinator there and doing an excellent job, who's engaging with the employers and the potential employees, and I've seen that in action, and it's working really, really well. So we have a target of 12, but I think we'll achieve way over that, which is great. The other item we've got on is the Three Waters, which was an extraordinary item, or now affordable waters. So just like to have a wee chat about your thoughts on the changes of that. And the major changes, 4 entities to 10. Our entity would be entity I, which takes in all of Canterbury, some of Marlborough, and the West Coast, which then but still is in the Ngātahu. What's that word? Takiwa. That's it. Takiwa. So yeah, we 13 councils in there, which would have then also have 13 iwi reps on the representation, regional representation group. So that was 26 sitting around the table, perhaps a few too many, but it is what it is. Thoughts? Tony? No, who's on first? Liz.
Thank you. And my question was just regarding that our group's obviously the biggest with 13 different TAs involved, and I read on one of the other council websites that they were talking about 28 people on the board, or
The RRG.
not the board. Is that correct, or would it be 26?
I think Christchurch, for us, for our entity?
Yes, for our entity.
I think Christchurch City, I read that the mayor there would like 2. I think that's where there's 13 goes to 14. Now, whether that happens or not is a different story, but that was noted in the media.
I just wondered where that number came from, because I know we had worked out 26 and then hearing 28.
Come from the mayor of Christchurch, and the mayor of the Christchurch City would get 1 representation for 400,000 people. Waimate would get 1 for 8,000 people.
Right.
So there's a little bit of disparity there, perhaps. So, but to be worked, well, whether it's to be worked through or not, this is the deal. Who's next? Councillor Todd.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Got a few things to say here.
Good, go for it.
So we now have affordable water reforms, which in reality is a more expensive version of the of Three Waters. But let's remind ourselves that the government has spent so far $100 million on the Three Waters. But Mr Mayor, for that we now have a new name. Let's remember we were originally told that creating 4 water entities was the most cost-efficient way to deliver water services. Now we do have 10 water entities, so the costs have dramatically increased. And of course the ownership and control of is still not resolved as far as I'm concerned. On the regional representation group, our entity will have 13 mayors and 13 iwi reps trying to achieve a consensus. Good luck with that, Mr Mayor. The group must achieve a 75% majority to effect change, which is highly unlikely. I heard Prime Minister Hipkins on the radio yesterday saying government would intervene if agreement couldn't be achieved, and I would second guess the side that he would support. To date, Mr Mayor, there have been no response to our concerns with our CCO, that is ACL. Government intend to take the Three Waters section of ACL with no compensation for the people of our district, and obviously this will affect our profitability, their profitability and property viability. So that is obviously a major concern. I was also amused with the government announcing savings on water over 30 years out. Who else can pronounce savings on anything 30 years out? Obviously, even pronouncing savings 3 years out would be a challenge, I would suspect. But, Mr Mayor, can I make comment on a far bigger issue called Te Mana o Te Wā, which basically gives iwi direct control of water. This is at the heart of Three Waters legislation. And really, if the media were here, this should be the headline in the paper. So iwi and hapu are granted rights to issue Te Mana o Te Wā statements. And I see Tuku Morgan is ecstatic about this, that has been kept in. So Te Mana o Te Wā statements kick in at the operational level and give Māori an awful lot of power, and only iwi and hapu can issue these statements. So the question I ask, are iwi far wiser custodians of water than anyone else? And I doubt that. So my understanding is under legislation passed late last year, entities must give effect to all of these statements. McNulty has been asked to clarify this position over the last 2 months, but he hasn't done so. So basically, iwi have the opportunity to veto any decision at the operational board that the operational board take. In effect, all your democratic rights, what's left of them, fly out the door. In fact, on Q&A on Sunday morning, McNulty accepted the proposal, didn't reflect of one person, one vote, probably backing Willie Jackson's comments that we do have a new form of democracy. So, Mr Mayor, councillors, the devil is in the fine print as far as I'm concerned, which is being lost by talk on co-governance. We need to read the small print because Te Mana o Te Wā is a far bigger issue and concern. Kieran McNulty believes he has nailed it, he is wrong, and now Three Waters is now a huge election issue. Mr Mayor.
Thanks for those comments, Councillor Todd. Again, we'll just speak once on it. So, Tony, if you could push your button off and we'll go to Councillor Cameron.
I have a question that I'd just like to make a comment, please. Does the the Council for Local Democracy, do they have formed an opinion on this, the 10 water entities, and what's their opinion?
Still opposed.
They're opposed. And I can understand why they are opposed. In my view, probably reflects Councillor Todd's, and that essentially the governance of the water and the ownership and the governance and the operations and the finance, the councils own it, but we have no ability to influence it essentially other than through our representative on the board. I'm also disappointed to see the $1.5 billion of the second tranche funding is gone. And that would be probably, in my opinion, better spent to be directly paid to the council to improve their own water infrastructure and manage their own water and look after it at a local level where it's probably best to remain. I would be opposed to this.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
I support clean drinking water, environmentally sound wastewater and robust stormwater management, as this council always has and always has done, but at an affordable price for ratepayers. This further adds confusion to the ratepayers of the district as to what their rates bill will do in the future. And I think this council should put out some information to our ratepayers which says what you're currently paying for your wastewater, stormwater and wastewater and drinking water, just to give clarity to what people are paying so they know when they talk $180 billion, the government, they understand how much money this district would have to spend to make that number real, which I think we probably could not spend our share of it because we've done enough to date. Just to give people clarity so when they're thinking of this, it's an election issue, they understand what it means to them personally.
Thank you. Councillor Lovett.
I agree with all what's been said. I'm still absolutely opposed to it. And it's a democratic process around that table. If the government is called in, it's just not fair. And I think another concern I have, it's like our assets, and they're going to borrow all this money off our assets, and if it falls over in the future, who's responsible for all that borrowed money? Is it going to come back onto the individual councils in that group, or will the government pay to rescue it? Because to me, it's cost so much money to set this up now, and you've got all these layers and layers of bureaucracy. I just don't think that it has been well thought through, and I don't like the we've got mayors now who are going to be accountable. They're voted in, so you can vote them out if they're not doing a good job. But iwi on these boards, how accountable are they if you've got them always opposing, or one or two of them always opposing everything what comes up around the table? Where's the process that they can be removed and somebody else brought in, or are they there for good? It just worries me, the whole thing. It's not good governance.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Short and sharp. A lot of hot air and really not any useful changes.
Thank you. I question the numbers, and the numbers that come out just recently. The numbers that came out 18 months ago, we were capped at $7,986, I think it was, would be our cost to our community, as some other councils were as well, in 30 years' time. Now, the real numbers come out, which is $16,000 it would cost this community in 30 years' time at the figures they've come up with. Times that by a number of users, connections, it comes up to just around about $200 million a year just to maintain our water. We spend about $11 million a year on it now. The value of it's about $250. It just does not work in my head. How can you spend $200 million a year on maintaining a water system that has a value in today's dollars of $250? And I know I'm using different years, but it just doesn't seem right and or acceptable. So perhaps they should be doing some more work on that, or or not to firm those numbers up, to be a bit more realistic. So I think I've got a good gauge of your feelings. So there's support for the proposal of affordable waters, I think, is we are not supporting in the form it's in as a council. And the other one is, do we carry on supporting Communities for Local Democracy, who is against this? We are a member now opposing, so a steer on that would be helpful too. Councillor Cameron.
I would like to continue, well, if I get a vote, I think we should continue to support.
Get a consensus, I think.
Yeah, Community for Local Democracy.
Yeah. Councillor
And
Todd?
I'll second that motion.
We'll just get a consensus that we just carry on because we're already in with them now. Yeah. Just everyone's supporting, we continue there. And it's good. And I think that it'll be really determined at the polling booth later this year. Yeah. So that's...
It'll just be interesting at Zone 5-6 because we're getting a presentation from the person who was going to lead entity D. So I assume he's still coming to talk. I'm not sure if they changed that.
The latest I saw, Mr Mayor was here addressing a working dinner on Thursday night, so he is still going to be in Queenstown.
Interesting,
That will be short, yeah. Councillor Cameron?
I don't think we moved a motion to accept your report.
No, we haven't done that yet.
Oh, we're still talking in your report?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr Speaker, I'll just make one other comment. One of the other features of this reform is a 2-year delay. So even should the government return to the, should Labor continue to be the government after October or whenever the election is, this doesn't now become effective from the 1st of July 2024. It's essentially effective from the 1st of July 2026, or such earlier date as everyone might agree, but given the number of councils and the complexity of our entity, you would imagine it would be 1 July 2026. The implications of that for our people are not good, because there's one thing about the reform process, it creates uncertainty, and so even once we know the results of the election, then there's ongoing transition work and uncertainty around jobs and careers and where you might be, etc., for a further 2 years from the current proposal. So while time has been bought, if you like, to settle in the new structure, that is not a particularly welcome initiative from a staff point of view, because of the ongoing uncertainty to their working life. So that's something else that we're dealing with as an organisation, if you like, internally.
As governance, we understand that and are sympathetic with you and your staff because of the uncertainty created, but we are struggling to assist in that because it's bigger than us.
Indeed, and
I support you. And
yes, thank you. And the staff will be pleased to know that the council is aware of and supportive of that concern. But like you, there's very little that myself or Mr McCann can do about it either. It simply is what it is. But it is a context to the next few years around business as usual, busy with transition, uncertainty. It just adds to that pot that our people are dealing with.
Yeah. Phil?
Just a quick comment to stay, support staying with C4LD. McAnulty commented on the news that he had Mayor's support for the changes and almost insinuated that some were hopping off the C4LD, and then they later said they had lost no one. So I think if we were to hop off as far as support goes, maybe it would look like we were supporting the changes. So I think
we'd signal that, yeah.
Yeah, we stay.
Thanks. Anything else on the Mayor's report? Councillor Ellis?
Thank you. Yourself and Councillor Cameron met with Bernice Mara, and I was just wondering, did it raise any health issues for our district or and those sorts of things? And just wondering if you talked about our GP levels for our amount of people we have and those sorts of things at the moment.
Yeah, we did. I'm not sure if we talked about GP levels, but we know about retiring GPs, and Bernie runs the hospital, so that's sort of focused on that. What she offered was for, was it two of her PR people, comms people, to come and present to us at council on what's happening at our hospital here and give us an update and a brief update on how it's all going there. They're in the transition, going from the health board to the DHBs to the one health board and transitioning through. So, and an update to council would be good around that. So we're organising that. Caroline?
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
We also discussed localities and the timeline for the localities formations, which, you know, we will be involved in a locality at some stage, what that meant, and with regards to consulting with the community as to what services from the health perspective that our community require, how would that be done, and who would be involved in that. So it's quite a good conversation, and there's a lot to work on and follow up.
Yep.
And also the ongoing need throughout New Zealand to get staff from every category, including health. Yeah.
Thanks. Nothing further, Mayor's report. I'll move that we receive the Mayor's report. Second up. Councillor Cameron. All in favour, please say aye. Thank you. That takes us to the end of the open part of the meeting. So I might just adjourn now for a cup of tea. We are running slightly behind time, but I think we can get everything done in time. Or
Just want to pass the motion about PX so that the public meeting is finished.
Yep, righto. Yep. Someone like to move that we move into public excluded. Councillor Brown, Councillor Lovett, all in favour, please say aye. Yes, carried. Thank you. We'll break for a 10-minute